Good morning, ladies and gents. Of course, the moment I turn my microphone on is the moment I start coughing. Don't mind me. So let's see. What have I got for you guys? Well, today we're gonna turn off the music, and specifically, I was gonna look into the idea of a guard mechanic. Now, the idea here. And this is kind of, I'm coming up with this as I go, but essentially the idea is that you can tell one character mid-combat to guard another for a turn. And while that character is busy guarding the other one, we do something special along the lines of, if they're attacked, you get to defend for them, or if they're attacked, you get to counterattack for them. Something like that. Now, obviously, we need to figure out kind of exactly what it means in order to actually implement it. But it's a good start of having the idea. I liked it because it added something more. If you have somebody who's out cold, or the character is nauseated and unable to guard themselves, it makes sense that you might be able to do something like guard them. You know, it makes the game feel a little more cooperative in nature. And also helps it with the effect of understanding that these are separate people in your party that need to be handled. Either that, or if we wanted to make this simpler, and I'm not really sure I want to do this, but if we wanted to make this simpler, we could simply say that guard is it's a type of action where you handle anything that comes your way. So specifically, if an enemy comes at you, you counterattack. Yeah, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between the two ideas. I do like the ability to guard somebody at the same time. The problem then becomes, well, if I guard somebody and they don't get attacked, what happens to the turn? I guess it kind of gets eaten, right? You're spending all your time watching someone else. It makes some sense. So let's see here. Also, you may note that my background here is white, and that's because I've got the sky platform doing a little bit better. I understand how they're doing it. They're essentially setting a dome, rendering to the dome. I realize my camera's off. I have a new experiment going on with camera angles today. I'm trying a different angle so that you guys don't get the bloom in the background the moment the sun starts to come up. Yeah, if you're protecting someone, forfeiting your turn seems good. Lemony Fresh, I think, has it right. Just to quickly... Aha! Let's say it takes 2 minutes to go through a full day. So it's kind of nice to see time of day changing, the shadows moving, all that good stuff. You can even kind of see the clouds shifting slightly, although it's somewhat difficult to do so. And then as the day wears on, you can see the two different maps interacting with each other. You can kind of see the stars starting to come through. The cloud cover is still there. The one thing I don't like is what it does to my ambient color. You note my game is particularly dark right now everywhere else. Not the worst thing in the world, but still not great either. Oh well, I'll keep futzing with that another time. There is no end to the amount of content that is going to be put into this game, so we've got time. So, first off, we need a button. Specifically... Where does the button go is part of it. I'm kind of tempted to make, the same way we have the attack button break out into pieces, I'm tempted to have the dodge button do the same. because we're starting to get to the point now where I want multiple dodge options. So you've got straight up dodging, which is just protect yourself, keep yourself from taking damage. We've got guard, which is coming up as kind of the new, you protect somebody else, and when you do so, you also, it's kind of a dodge-ish action. It's a defensive action as opposed to an offensive action. And then the other one I want to have is, I want to put in some kind of action for parrying, using your weapon to turn the others aside. So instead of using your dexterity, it might use your weapon skill instead, or it might allow counterattacks, is the other part. So there's kind of a couple systems I want in here, and the problem is to add all those buttons separately is a little bit much. So I'm thinking that I'm going to take this combat window, and I'm going to add another set of sub buttons, kind of the same way we have sub buttons for the other one, for the attack button setup. I love how complex combat is getting, because in my mind, I think that, if combat's going to be such a large part of this game, it should be, whoops, wrong window. If combat's going to be such a large part of this game, it should be complex and meaty and have that kind of crunch to it, that players feel like their actions make a difference in the game. Obviously, if they don't feel like that, then I'm doing something terribly wrong. So we already have subtype buttons. I could repurpose those, although I think these subtype buttons, yeah, they already have a on-click attached to them, so I don't really want to do that. What I am going to do, let's change their names to make it a little more obvious. Oh, that's why. Okay, we'll look up subtype, and we'll probably come up with the string we're looking for. Here it is. Oh, Unity. Your text corruption is adorable and stupid all at the same time. So first off, with clever naming, we can remove a string concatenation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say attack subtype 0, and we're going to take off the button part. So now it's just string A plus string B instead of string A, B, and C. A little bit too much in that case. Also, as I've been working with Unity, I've been learning more and more about the systems that make it up, and what they do and don't prefer. And one of the major things that I've realized that Unity really doesn't like is that they don't want your system to do traversals through the hierarchy. The hierarchy is kind of innately slow in comparison to a lot of other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to tack in a reference here. And it's just going to be for all of the buttons. And these are going to be our attack subtype buttons. And this is going to make our life a lot easier. Specifically when it comes to... I'm actually going to put it there. And I'm going to put another one in for our dodge. Or I'll call them the defense subtype buttons. So we've got our attack and defense subtypes. And the thing I've learned is that Unity's happier eating up the memory than it is doing the traversal through the tree. Now, obviously, there are cases where that matters more or less, but for now, let's just go with the way Unity likes to do things. So specifically, we've got 3 subtype buttons, and there's 0, and there's 1, and there's 2. And now all we have to do, instead of doing that traversal, which drags us all over the place, all we have to do is say, well, we're actually just looking for this index. And then, let's see here. This index dot transform. I also can't help but notice that we use the game object more than we actually use the rest of the object itself. So let's just do this quickly. So we're doing less lookup changes. Don't need that. Oh, we do use them somewhat equally, don't we? Oh well. Is there a way to set the button text without... No, not really. You have to literally go into the button and change the text via the text object. Okay, just a thought. While I'm here, I noticed that I have room for larger text, so let's do that. If only because I like larger text, and I cannot lie. You other developers can't deny. Something about a button walking in with an itty-bitty... I don't know. Dang it! I was doing so well. Yeah, my transform lookups are getting cached, so it's not that bad. It's just one of those things where I like to save it the effort when I can. And also what that allows me to do is it allows me to rename things and not have to look through the code for those renames, which is going to make my code a little bit more able to survive changes like the one I just made. Go back to our combat window, apply all of our changes. Okay, so we've got our attack subtype buttons. What I'm going to do is we're going to copy them. We're going to drag them down ever so slightly. And these are going to become defense subtype buttons. We're just going to slap these buttons into the array that we made for them. Just grab them all, and where's that array? Here we go. Subtype 0, subtype 1, and subtype 2. Am I sure it's not defense with a C? No, defense with an S. Yeah. Trust me, I've read Harry Potter lately. Defense Against the Dark Arts had an S in it. I'm sorry, I don't know why that, of all things, popped into my mind. You know what? No, I'm not sorry. I'm a giant freaking nerd. I don't need to be sorry at all. Let's see here. Is that how it is? Just us Americans are doing it differently? Great. Add that to the list of shit like the metric system that just... Great. Okay. So we've got the button stuff in, but we don't actually have it doing anything yet. Also, I can't help but notice the button still says dodge. You are now the defense button. Your text should say defense. Look what you guys have done. According to a random Google entry? Great. Well, I'm Merkin. Those Merkins spell it with an S. So I'm going to put it with an S. Also, now having attack, item, and defense feels a little funny. I don't know why. Just run with it. We're going to fix that by shifting that one there, grabbing our defense button, and shifting it here. Ta-da! apply that change. Let's see, I'm trying to think of anything. Oh, right, duh. We actually have to do the assignment of stuff. So, choose attack and choose attack subtype. We also need the choose defense action. And then we want a choose defense subtype. Now, unlike the attack subtypes, I'm pretty sure, and let me think about this for a moment. Yeah, most of them are going to be the same. Most. The problem is not all. So I'm going to keep it the same way we've got the other one going right now. So, let's see here. Weapon, punch, kick. So I don't really care quite so much about the stuff in the same way we did before, especially when it comes to like weapons in your hand. I need to think about this. So, I guess, what do we have first, right? We've got dodge, we've got, well, right now we're only going to have dodge and guard. That seems pretty straightforward. Where are my attack subtypes? Not quite. Pretty sure there's only a couple places in my code where I use the word thrust. And here they are. Okay, so... game, thank you, but that's enough. You can stop that. So I'm coming down to one of those points where I have to think about a little bit of architecture here before I just like dive in and keep going. Obviously, this needs the advanced character choice attached to it, and depending on the defense subtype that you choose, we should do something along the lines of player defense action. Yes, I know it doesn't exist yet. Who they're going to defend, and the subtype. Oh, right, okay, so this is where the thought has to come in and add into this. So, dodge is the easy one. Dodge is just always pretty much going to be there unless you can't. I'll have to handle that some other way or time. Specifically coming up with options for a way to check, can this character actually actively dodge? If you're asleep, obviously you can't dodge. For now, we're just going to leave it on all the time. So, let's see here. Oh, also I didn't switch the attack subtypes over. I just realized that. Let's see here. This is our attack subtype button. Subtype. Transform. Okay. Now the player defense action currently isn't a thing. And it won't be a thing for a little bit longer. At least not until I assign everything correctly. Defense. Okay, you are not a choose dodge action anymore. You should actually be a choose defense action. And then each of the defense subtypes is what you should be choosing here. choose defense subtype. And you should be subtype 0. Don't know why these are in weird order, but whatever. Choose defense subtype 1 and defense subtype 2. See, some of those were in order. Just 0 and 1 got swapped. Weird. So for now, we're only going to show subtype 0 and call it dodge, and subtype 1 and call it guard. I'll figure out a mechanism to hide and show those more specifically later. So, let's see here. Defense subtype buttons. Kind of tempted to come up with like a little temporary private function to help me out with this. Let's see, 0 dot, it's a button, so find child name text, right? We do this a lot. Text, get component, text, dodge. If subtype is 0. Sometimes when you code something out and do it the naive, stupid way, like what I'm doing right now, it helps you kind of figure out what you actually need to get done in the long run. Because once you have the essentially the long, ugly version, you can clean it up, make things a little simpler, and handle it that way. So let's see here, we turn the object on, we do the whole, I shouldn't repeat all that code, I'm just gonna do that. Except this should be text, and now we just say set defense button, 0 should say dodge. See, getting smart about it. 1 should say guard. And let's see here. If you say guard, we need to think a little further, because there's another step here. Specifically, we need to do a target choice. So the same way that the spell does a target choice, we need to do one now. Where's the choose spell? There it is. Interesting. There's a target picker attached to this combat window, isn't there? There's a spell picker and an item picker. Oh wait, no. It's, sorry. I'm like losing my mind here. Target picker. Yes. Okay, cool. And just to double check what the target picker does, on enable does its own thing. Pick target. Okay. Let's get rid of all these things I don't need. So if you say guard, we're not going to choose an action for you, but we are going to choose who we need to guard. And then we need to go more specifically into Oh, we don't need to know how, actually. It's kind of obvious you're going to guard with your weapon at all times. You're probably not going to try and guard somebody with a spell, as cool as that might be. So we're actually, let's see, if you choose a defense subtype of guard, we need to get the component of the target picker and enable it. Not only do we need to enable it, before we enable it, I'm going to set it to party only. And I assume on target picked handler, yeah. Oh, actually, there's a better way to do that. On choose dodge target. The nice thing is I get to use all architecture that I've only used before. The only thing here is that I don't actually know what the on-target picked handler uses. Okay, on-target picked is a void with... Yeah, no, that looks fine. What's wrong here? Why are you... Oh, now it's not complaining. The moment I navigate away and come back, that is when Visual Studio decides to hide the error. Hello, Fox! I know I'm really, really friggin' slow at chat sometimes, but I'm getting better, I think? Maybe I'm getting worse, I don't know. I just kind of get into a zone when programming sometimes, and I forget that, like, oh right, I should probably read chat from time to time. I need to get something like Chatty, which literally blinks when somebody says something, at least so it's in my face enough that I know exactly what is going on. On choose dodge target. Dodge target. Guard target. Gotta get this right. And this is going to return early, just to avoid that advanced character choice until we've chosen a character. Let's see here. Did I miss anything else? I don't think I did. I'm just going to quickly look for anything else that uses the attack subtype string stuff, like this. See, okay, once again, here's a case where you'll note I'm doing a find child and I'm doing the string stuff. That in and of itself is not bad, but the fact that I have a hard-coded 3 here is bad. And so what I want to do here instead is say, well, I don't actually want an I equals 0 to 3. It's easier for me to say for each button, attack button in, what was it? Attack subtype buttons. And now, right, that's what this code was doing before. I gotta remember this now. Yes. Blop. And then we just add this in also for the defense subtype buttons. And note how those magic numbers just disappear when you do it this way. It's so much better. And you don't have to worry nearly as much about whether things are accidentally getting left in. None of that matters anymore. The other thing I want to do, if you choose the attack or defense option, I want to hide the other set. So, I'm just going to write a function for this. You know what? Screw it. Let's see here. Void set attack button hide or show set enabled. There we go. And then we're just going to say for each. I know it's not much of a shortening when it comes to code. But I use it in a lot of places, so I don't mind doing it much. And while it might seem silly, especially when I spell button with only one T, it'll make our code a little readable as well. Because now all I have to do back up here near the top, when we say choose the attack action and we show all the buttons, then all we say is set the defense buttons to false, by the way. And then when you choose a defense action, we say set the attack buttons to false. Let's just do let's do it at the bottom. Whoops. This is gonna throw a fit. It always does. Luckily, I have a fight standing like right in front of me. So if I hit attack, there's our attack stuff. If I hit defense, something's not working here. Okay. I've got two errors. I know one popped up after the other. Oh, or an error can just pop up the moment I walk into the fight. Because there is no dodge button. The defense button's pretty much always going to be there. Unless you can't... Okay, got it. Okay, we're going to rename this from dodge to defense. That should do the trick. Did I not name it the defense button? Is that what's going on here? Action background, defense button has 2 spaces in it. Note the picky little things that happen when we use names like this. I'm not a huge fan, but I know sometimes it's also a necessary evil. Okay, there's our attack. Our defense still has a slight issue in it. Let's see here. Object reference not set to a reference of an object. Well, I know the defense subtype buttons are good, right? Because it's not an out of bounds, and we know that in bounds we have a bunch of valid buttons. The transform isn't invalid, which means that this find child text is what's invalid. Now, if we look at the defense subtype button, it's a capital T in text. I have a bad feeling that that makes all the difference in the world to Unity. So I click defense, there's guard and dodge. I click attack, there's swing and thrust. Very nice. It's a good start. Now, is it just me or is guard in the wrong place? Subtype 0 is marked as dodge. Subtype 1... Okay, I think I know what happened. I think I named these poorly. And then proceeded to also put them in the wrong spot. Yeah, I did. Let's fix that. Whoops. I was wondering why it kept looking like 0 and 1 had switched places. It's because they did. So you should be 0. and you should be 1. Now, normally that would fix our issues, but because we put everything into this handy-dandy little array, you'll notice it now goes 1, 0, 2 over here on the side. At least if you can see the, if you can see the text on my screen. I know it can be a bit tiny sometimes. That's why I still haven't transitioned over to using any kind of overlay yet, is just because I know the text is already small on my screen, and the moment I throw an overlay up, things will just go to hell. Yeah, 2 spaces, right? Of all bugs to catch. I'm glad I actually caught that instead of glazing over it and spending another hour on it. Okay, so there's dodge and guard. There's swing and thrust. So guard doesn't actually do anything. I clicked guard and it just moved on. Oh, did I also... I know what I did. There's one more thing Rob forgot. And it is defense 0 and defense number 1. Derp, derp, derp. Don't mind me. I do weird things when I code. Okay, so defend, guard. Now, guard's doing nothing. And understandably so, to some degree. We're enabling the picker on the combat window, but for some reason it's not kicking in. On enable. Sorry, I couldn't help but notice that those were grayed out. Okay. On enable, it does the following. It grabs the description text, sets it, and then says no one can open their inventory. So we need to do one more thing, and that is to hide the combat window. So game object set active false. Why don't we do that at the end of all this? Nah, whatever, don't care. And then we bring ourselves back when a character has been picked. Okay, defense guard. My text still isn't getting set. And there's no errors. That's the weird thing. Let's try attaching a debugger. See if that lends us any idea of what's going on. Because onEnable should be getting called by Unity. But it's not. So that tells us something, I just don't know what. Let's see. Let's look at the combat window real quick. Oh, because the game object it's attached to is getting turned off. The combat window entirely is getting turned off. Okay, let's see here. I don't want to turn off the game object. I want to turn off something more specific. I think that specific thing is going to be... Let me hunt for it. There's our spell UI template. That's not what we want. But, target picker, target picker, target picker. So when the spell picker comes up, it turns itself off. So something like, let's see here. Think, Rob. You choose the defense action, brings up those buttons. You choose the defense subtype, and we need to do 2 things here. Okay, I know. We've got to, I need to look at the prefab again, but that should answer my questions. We want the action background itself to go away. Yeah. So We grab our transform, we say find child, action background. Game object, set active, false. Set active, true. Hey, look at that. We can turn things back on as well. See if that works any better. Defense, guard, there it is. Pick a target. Sweet, I pick someone else. I wonder if guarding yourself... I didn't really think about it. But guarding yourself is effectively the parry action I had in mind. I guess I don't need that third button, do I? At least not yet. We'll see if we can come up with maybe a third cool defense action. Now granted, these are just throwing these players' actions away, because the moment we choose a guard action, we're just setting it back to true and then moving on. We have no actual information getting stored. So when somebody is attacked... How do we react to this? Where do we react to this? Because this information needs to go somewhere, right? We have to store, at bare minimum, who is defending whom. Okay, yeah, whom, good. Good usage. Just had to double check on Google that I was using the word whom correctly. Whom is usually used after a verb. What the verb is targeting. Process combat. Okay, so when combat's getting processed, a few things kick in here. One, let's see here. Having aim as a possibly, like, defensive action? Maybe. Maybe. So we could have a new condition, and we'll call the condition guarded. And that means somebody is guarding them, and the moment that somebody is attacked, we could say, hey, are you being guarded? And we could check that. Another thing we could do is we could check a guard action. So we could... Oh, excuse me. Let's see here. So the only thing I'm thinking right now is trying to figure out a good way or place to put this that it doesn't complicate our combat by a ton. So, for example, if you look at dodging, dodging is used in two places, right? We set that you are dodging or not, and dodging is simply a flag that a character owns. And then when you fight somebody, we check, hey, are you dodging? And if so, we do an extra defensive check and just say, oh, by the way, we're gonna handle this case of you dodging, or we're gonna handle the case of you guarding. It's gonna be the new one that we need to add in. Now the question becomes two things. One, what dice are we rolling when you guard? And number two, we also need to check not only the dice that are being rolled, but how does that benefit the person? So do you just outright stop the attack? Does the person still get hit maybe, but you get to counterattack? And how do we insert things into the list of events when the moment a fight has started, we kind of have already started taking care of all the actions that are being resolved. So if we tack a new combat We tack a new action in. Is it that bad? Not particularly. So I guess we need to figure out how to insert a new action into the list. Now you'll note that we're removing actions from the list as we go. So it might not be too bad to just like throw something new into the list. Throw a new participant into the top of the list, say, by the way, you're now attacking this target. And just use a special attack. Okay, I think I understand how I want to do this. It's a little complex, but this is one of the more interesting things you can do as well. So I'm not too put off by it. So if you would hit and you are being guarded. So this is the hard part now. We need to check when an enemy attacks you, are you being guarded? And is this an attack you can guard against? That's something else I didn't really consider. The fact that you could dodge pretty much anything makes sense, right? Somebody casts a spell at you, and that doesn't make sense that you could dodge it. Which is why spells tend to be pretty dodge-free. Actually, no, you can still dodge spells, can't you? There's a lot of complexity that's starting to come in here, and I'm starting to kind of hesitate because I don't want to add in a giant chunk of code for something that should be fairly simple. I'm trying to think up and make sure that this is a simple thing. Okay, first off, else if. We need to figure out if you're being... So if you get hit, we need to check, are you being guarded? And I'm putting to-dos in here to make sure that the architecture and structure of the code looks right before I start actually coding. We also want to make sure that this person only gets inserted into the list once. I didn't think about this, but if the person has acted this turn, then they shouldn't be able to act a million times. They should only help against the first... They should only be able to counterattack the first person who is attacking them. Everyone else, they can provide a bonus to their defense, but they shouldn't provide a... They shouldn't provide like a free attack on everybody who attacks that person. Because that's a little silly. Suddenly you have one person doing 20 attacks because 20 people decide to attack someone else. All you'd ever do is have characters guarding for each other, because at minimum you would probably get one attack in return, if not more. And I don't really like that. I want this to be a crunchy, mean, difficult game. And I want guarding to be meaningful without being overpowered. So, let's see here. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. First off, the combat window is going to have the following. Somewhere in here, I'm going to have a dictionary of player characters. It's a player character to player character dictionary. And this is going to be our guard list. I don't want to use the word list. I don't even know why I'm using the word list here. So we're going to rename it real quick because I don't like the name. Whoop. No, that's wrong. I like to name my variables. Uh-oh. I like to name my variables in part after the type that they are. Partially for my sanity, when I'm reading my code, if I see list, I'm going to assume that the type is actually a list, even if the assignment is doing it in another weird way. So okay, here's our guard dictionary. And this honestly shouldn't be private. This should actually, well, no. It should be private, and we should use a public function to check. Yes, that's what I like the sound of. So we are going to say get target, actually get player guard. Guards, multiple. Because you can have multiple people guarding the same person. Get player guards, okay, and we have the player character, the guardee. I don't know if that's correct, but I don't care. For each key value pair, player character, this is how you pull values out of a dictionary. It's not the prettiest thing, but it gets the job done. Let's see, if the value is the guardee, the person who we are checking if there is a guard for, we're just going to say if guards is null, quickly actually instantiate it, and then we say guards.add the person doing the guarding to the list, and then we return guards. Let's see. If guards is null, we return null. Otherwise, actually, if guards is not null, how about we do it this way? Okay, so we attack somebody. Right now, this has all been very character agnostic. So we have to do one more if statement in here. If T is a player character, we have to do a little bit of special logic here. And we have the combat UI. Cool. So the reason I did this, this late instantiation, something you'll note, if guards is null, then instantiate it. The reason I did this weird late instantiation is because it's very rare that players will actually be guarding the right person. And every time somebody is attacked, we check if there are guards. So what would happen is we'd end up instantiating tons of these lists. And each time we instantiate the list, suddenly there's more garbage that needs to get collected. We don't really want to handle that every single time, especially since we're doing an array copy at the end, which is even more garbage to get collected later. So what I'm doing here is we're essentially waiting and saying, okay, let's not actually instantiate this unless we are certain somebody needs to be added into this list, at which point that's when we actually go through and do the check. I'm just going to switch the order of things here. Not order, the Boolean target of things. I like code that is not so far out in the tab structure if I can help it. I also like the white spacing here. Makes it a little easier to read, even if it's not the prettiest thing in the world. Yeah, that should do the trick. So now we know a few things. We know how many people are guarding the target, and we know exactly who is guarding the target. So we're going to do a few things here. If guards is not null, there's a chance you can get guarded. And unfortunately, I'm coming up right on the end of the amount of time I have. I also can't help but notice that right here-ish on my camera, I still have some bloom from outdoors. Like, I bet if I close the windows, this will get better. Kinda. Oh well. Yeah. That's funny. I'm like, my camera is pointed nowhere near that window. It's even pointed a different direction than that window, and it's still doing it. Alright. To do. Finish me. Finish this. There we go. So thank you guys for joining me. It's been great. I have to go back to my car. It's a cold morning, so I have to tune my carburetors a little bit. Make sure everything's going to actually start on my car this morning. Kind of appreciate it when my car starts. My idle was way too low yesterday because it was just frigid. I know, California weather, right? It's weird. So thank you guys for joining me. If this is your first time here, or if you just haven't done it yet, hit that follow button, the little heart below. I think it's actually over there further. But hit that and you'll see when I come online. And it also kind of shows support in its own weird, funny way. If you already follow, thank you very much. I do appreciate all of you who join me and see that I'm online and come and hop in chat here. Even if, you're playing Rocket League at the same time. Looking at you, Whiteland. But thanks, guys, for joining me. It's been a lot of fun, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Same time, same place. We'll finish this up. We'll get guarding in place, and then we'll test it out and see if we can't think of any more defensive actions to slap in while we're in this part of the code. Thanks again, guys, for joining me, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Take care.